But in studio with me, it's my accomplice, my partner in crime, Roleza, ASP
Always.
Parnel Browne, and what is it? Sergeant Dwight Lewis. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have a very interesting and timely topic this morning. So the topic is the proliferation of illegal firearms and dark tint on motor vehicles are a threat to national security. What should the national response be?
And there's silence in the room. What's happening?
Well, as we know, that this came to light on Sunday when the Prime Minister made the announcement that there will be harsher penalties for illegal firearm possession, sexual offenses, and vehicle tints. So I'm hoping that the officers here this morning could share with me this morning a little more on the topic before we get into the discussion.
Good morning, everyone. I think I maybe want to start off the conversation or the discussion.
Yes, you're a friend of the studio.
Yes, I am. Once again, my name is Dwight Lewis. I'm a sergeant of police and I'm attached to the Legal Research and Policies Unit. For starters, the issue of proliferation of illegal firearms and tint on vehicles, whether it is a threat to national security and the response from the legislation / the government. For starters, where there are issues of security matters, so matters such as crime, an increased crime rate, or an increase in criminality, the legislator can and will pass legislation based on what is happening in the country. In relation to the proliferation of illegal firearms, there have been an increase in criminal activities based on the use of firearms in the commission of crimes, murders, robberies, and the like. For some strange reason, social media has it that there's a linkage between
My apologies.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, my
for some
apologies.
strange reason, there's I would say a misconception of some that the dark tint on vehicles are primarily responsible for some of these crimes. I cannot talk about that because we don't have the stats. We cannot say that there's a strong correlation between tint on vehicles and some of the crimes, right? I cannot say that. But however, what I can say is if the legislator feels it that there's a need for certain legislation, harsher punishment for certain crimes, and for the inclusion of certain regulations or legislation, they can do it. From my standpoint, I think that there is a need for harsher punishment for illegal firearms.
Agreed.
I am also of the opinion that this is my opinion. This is my strong held opinion. I believe that there should be some regulations on the tinting of vehicles.
But isn't there already some
Let him
regulation?
speak. Hold on. Let him finish his point. Continue.
I strongly believe that. For reasons that I may delve into. When you look at certain vehicles, right? This is from my own experience. So I am walking, and a vehicle pulls up behind of me, and it is so dark that I cannot see inside of the vehicle. I cannot see who is driving. I cannot see the passengers. I do not know what they have. And it's not until they roll on they carry on the windows that's when you start to see who are the occupants of the vehicle. Another experience, minivans. I don't want this topic to be about minivans, but minivans. So they are licensed to carry 18 passengers or whatever you have, right? Then you have some minivans because it is so dark. You have persons sitting on top of persons. You have persons standing along with the conductor, and you don't know how many persons are in the vehicle. Now, if there was an accident and that vehicle, that minivan happens to, lose control, turn over, and persons were injured, and it is found that the minivan was carrying overcapacity, what would be the response? I mean, we have to take a lot of things into consideration. Security-wise, police officers stopping and searching vehicles, that's another issue. Police officers, some of them are not armed, and they approach a vehicle that is heavily tinted. They don't know what to expect. You don't know who the occupants are, if the occupants are wanted fugitives, if they're armed, if they have dogs, pit bulls that can be let loose on them. We don't know. So for the tint, I believe that officers should be able to see inside of the vehicle without guessing as to who the driver is, who the occupants are, or how many occupants are in the vehicle.
So you believe that this should be the case across the board?
Well, with every legislation, from my knowledge, with every legislation, there are exemptions.
When you say across the board, what do you mean?
He's going to exactly that. Who will be exempt from this law
So there are
or
exemptions.
legislation?
There are exemptions with every legislation. So you may have the Prime Minister for starters. You may have the Governor General. You may have, well, not may have, you would have police service vehicles would be tinted. CID patrol vehicles will be tinted. Ambulance will be tinted. You may have persons on ambassadorial missions, those vehicles may be tinted. Persons working at the DPP's office, because of the nature of their job, vehicles may be tinted. You will also have persons who may have certain skin conditions that are being affected by the sun, constant exposure to the sun. They may be exempted. So, although you have this legislation stating that tint, all vehicles must be tinted, there are exemptions to every rule. So I am hoping that persons, when they hear the Prime Minister is exempted, persons shouldn't be angry or upset. It's just the nature of it, because those persons are persons within a certain bracket that they must be protected.
Yeah, but then the situations that you put before us. What if a vehicle pulls up on a police officer? You cannot see who's inside. You don't know what they have. You don't know what's going on. Let's say, God forbid, somebody decides to kidnap one of these people, the ambassadors, the persons with the skin conditions, anyone of the sort. You still won't know what you're walking into as a police officer pulling over this vehicle. So I don't see the consistency in requesting that only some persons be asked to remove the tint. It should be across the board if it is that you're concerned about safety. And I personally believe that if someone has a firearm, they have the firearm. Taking off the tint, removing the tint won't stop the fact that they have the firearm. They could conceal it in many different ways and you won't know what is coming. You can be there speaking to someone and they have the firearm under their lap. You cannot see. The tint doesn't change that.
Okay. Just to answer your question. So somebody pulls up or drive up to me with a vehicle. It is not tinted, right? But there are persons around me. There are CCTV cameras, right? But there may be CCTV cameras, right? So the vehicle isn't tinted. So other witnesses may have a clear view inside of the vehicle, right? You, as a criminal, the vehicle isn't tinted. You are aware that you can be seen. Is it that you're going to be putting on a balaclava over your face? to hide your identity? Or are you just going to go as you are without any mask over your face and open fire on me or kidnap me? Because there's a strong possibility that you may be seen. How it is now, you don't care because my vehicle is so dark, nobody can see inside it. Even if I have on a mask or not.
Yeah, but driving with a hat or driving with sunglasses on is not illegal. You can still hide your identity.
Yeah.
And what just I'm gonna let you continue. I just want to finish the point. I noticed that there's a new culture that whenever there's an event, especially color fete or wet fete or anything of this sort, that persons have these ski masks now. Some persons are driving with them, some persons are walking with them. There's still many ways to conceal identity. How do you say in response to that?
Well, that is with the persons working at the event, so the promoters, persons at the gate.
No, but if I'm in my vehicle driving to the
with them.
event, wearing my ski mask.
You are in your vehicle.
Yeah, but my
Person-
identity is still
Yeah,
concealed.
but once you exit the vehicle and you are going to the event,
No, but if I'm on my way to the vehicle, I'm coming behind you. You still don't know. If it, with the tint removed, you still do not know who I am, what my identity is.
But look,
I think we could be. It can end up falling into some very technical things
Yes.
in terms of pinpointing
Yes.
every little instance.
yes,
And I suppose, as you may already understand or may already sense, Ari has a particular position
Yes, he
with
does.
regards
he
to
does,
this.
and he's
All right.
he's very strong about it.
He's
I mean,
very
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
Yeah, everything else. I don't know if you listened to the program yesterday. I said I wholeheartedly agree with the harsher penalties for the sexual offenses. Of course, harsher penalties for the firearms because the firearm issue is out of control. But the tinting issue, I can see the logic behind it,
Okay.
and that's why we're here to learn from each other. And we have a
All right,
call.
we
Let's
have a
say the
call,
call.
but okay. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I know that Ari has his position on tinting of vehicles. May
Yes,
I
I
ask
do.
Ari a question? Do you have any children?
Do I have children? No, I do not.
Okay, let us assume that you have a daughter. Okay?
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
following.
let's say 13 years old, 14 years old, whatever the case may be. And there's a vehicle that is heavily tinted. You cannot see in that vehicle. But somewhere along the line, you see that vehicle moving up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay?
Yeah, I'm following still.
And that vehicle is seen, let us say, in Argyle. And someone saw that vehicle or somebody in that vehicle throw a body outside of that vehicle. Lo and behold, the body that is shown out of the vehicle is your daughter with her throat slashed and she's killed. What would you say?
This still has nothing to do with the tint. If we have the CCTV up, we should be able to track
Hello.
the license plate and the
Hello.
registration number.
Hello. The same how a person with a ski mask driving a vehicle, you could identify the vehicle and who is the driver by the registration plate. Okay?
Exactly.
But
my
let
point.
us assume that the number on that vehicle is fictitious.
Uh-huh.
How are you going to trace it?
If they have on the schemas, how are we going to trace it?
Okay, fine. How are we going to trace it if the vehicle is heavily tinted?
And it's the same
Well,
point that we're making.
It's not tracing the vehicle in this case. It's actually identifying the
I am in
driver.
agreement with the removal of tint, not really with the removal of tint, but the type of the tint. Remove the entire front windshield tint that a lot of persons are using and reduce the density of the tint on the side glass. That would solve a lot of problems.
All right.
We can't be trying to fight crime and fight against crime at the same time.
Yeah, but I find we're starting at the bottom, but that's my opinion.
Well, you got to start somewhere, my friend. The only people in life that don't prosper is grave diggers. They start from the top to go down. We have to start from the bottom and come up, and then you would progress.
Okay.
Thank you.
Interesting
All right.
analogy.
Thanks, caller. All right. So before we continue, though, we haven't allowed ASP Browne to give his
sorry, ASP bro.
his thoughts on this topic. So ASP Browne, the floor is yours.
Good morning to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to the host, wherever this program is being viewed or heard. My name is Parnel, Browne, Assistant Superintendent of Police. I'm in charge of the traffic department. It's a very interesting.
Oh, sorry, we have a
call
call.
coming in. So, all right. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know if you can hear me clear.
Yes, we can.
Okay, regarding the tinting, I totally agree with the police officer, with certain people be protected with a tint. And also, I was in St. Vincent Independence back in 2017, and I rented a vehicle, and the whole front windscreen was tinted. I could hardly see out of it. So I believe it in the removal of the tint.
Yeah, but you
You
chose
have a
to
little
take the
tint
vehicle.
on the side. I couldn't see, especially at night. In America, that could never happen. I got pulled over here for tint.
It happens in
America, and my
Taiwan.
car wasn't that bad. And I think it should be done. Like the guy make a scenario there, if you have a daughter's 13 years old, I wouldn't put it as far as throwing the body out. If you have a daughter or some young one walking along the street and a vehicle tinted consistently following them, won't you be concerned when it's a tinted vehicle following your daughter or your son? So, I mean, young people in a whole like these tinted vehicles like that. But there's provisions where they cannot use the tint, and I totally agree with the law. If they change the law, because your front windscreen should not be tinted completely, should not be tinted. You know, if I could touch back on our independence, I also came up for independence in 2017 also. And I love my country. And it seems like a lot of young people not patriotic at all, because all they want is party. I went down there, enjoyed myself. My wife is non-Vincential, she was fully decked out. You know, Vincential costume. From there, we went to Everything Vinci. That was the first exhibition they ever had. I mean, there are things to do. You can go and vote, right, etc. But we have to be patriotic. It seems like the young people, a lot of them don't have that in them. They're just probably the older folks. You know what I'm saying? That's my take. I'll listen to you guys.
Oh, that's my previous
Okay,
point.
thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thank you,
All right,
caller.
thanks for your contribution.
Yeah, sorry, ASP Browne. Please continue.
I'll wait. Yes. The issue at hand is a very interesting topic. And quite often we have seen and heard where crime are being committed by persons using darkly or heavily tinted vehicles. For me, in life and in today's society, we are gravitating too much towards the negatives, and we are just forgetting that there's life and there are laws that govern the lands, and the lawmakers have to, while the society change and things do change, they have to frame the law in such a way to suit the day-to-day running of the country. And because of the rise in crime and the issues of relating to crime and proceeds of crime, we have to make legislation to govern our country. We have to update. Now, with the tint on vehicles at night, we deal with motor vehicle accident. And people will confess, because their vehicles are so heavily tinted, they have to use these LED lights, and they're still not able to see properly. The LED lights will blind the other person who is coming who does not have their vehicle heavily tinted. And you who have your vehicle heavily tinted could hardly see, hence create a hazard to put your life and other person's life in danger. So sometimes we have to get individual preferences when it comes to holistically thing like the law. It's not for an individual. It's to govern the country and the visitors alike. And there are other things that will contradict this tinting of vehicles fully. It is an hazard. Hence, that is why we are having so much motor vehicle accident on our roads, because the people cannot see. I am telling you. Because we have had confession from drivers who say, I didn't see.
You know, one of the
And they all, just 1 second. Hence, that is the reason why they always have to drive with the bright. Because it limits the lighting, it limits you seeing us outside at night. One man told me, man, I fed up licking up my vehicle in the back. I said, why? Boy, them glasses, so thin, so everybody, I can't even see back behind through the side mirror. Yeah, watch. It is a disaster happening, but if we does not have legislation to stem it, it will be chaotic.
And even with the point that you're making, it's not even just about drivers, but also for pedestrians, because there are times when you're on the crossing. For me as a pedestrian, yes, we tend to say that we have the right of way if we're already on the crossing, but sometimes a driver is approaching, they haven't necessarily stopped or slowed down, and you need to have that ability to make eye contact with them, you know. So we also, yes, Ari, you're already on the crossing. Sometimes people don't even recognize the fact that you're on the crossing. So before proceeding further, I stop and make sure that they at least acknowledge my presence, because if I continue crossing, what's going to happen?
Accident.
Ari, what's your thoughts? I see your face.
No. I have stuff to say.
I just want
I
to add something.
Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
So once you're on the crossing, you have right of way,
Mm-hmm.
and the driver can be prosecuted for failing to stop.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So be mindful of that. You have the right of way once you're on the crossing.
Yeah.
I have the right way, but I also need to ensure my safety, because sometimes some of them don't stop. They don't slow down.
They
so
don't stop because they don't see you. There's a
Right.
blind spot to the right of the
Yeah.
driver.
Mhm.
And if that is also if you have a heavily tinted vehicle, it prevents visibility. Your visibility will be poor.
All right.
So it is not about you trying to protect your privacy. Privacy is in your house.
Or comfort.
While you're on the roads of St. Vincent and the Grenadines of any country, you have to adhere to the laws. You're in a public place. So what is so much private?
What you have in your vehicle that you don't want?
That is what is so much private that if it is that private, you should not be on the public road.
Nice.
Guys, the public.
What the time is around 8:31. So probably just to break a bit, pay some bills, and we get right back into this discussion.
Friday, the 13th of October, we are going back to Argus.
Erase the violence. Let our voice be heard. We can't sit in silence. The hope of tomorrow is in no use today. We got to live in love. Crime and violence don't pay.
All right, and we're back with this topic this morning that as I have a bunch of us, myself included,
Woke up since Monday.
a little worked up.
Since Monday.
A little worked up. I'm pretty sure if you listen to the sign out, I've been having speeches. I did Merchant of Venice.
No, I tell you, it was that serious. Believe me.
I have a dream. I don't know what I'm doing today, but I'm glad that I have ASP Browne today and Sergeant Lewis to explain to me and the public what exactly are the what's the draft? What should we expect?
All right, and just before we get into that, just remember that listeners, that this is an interactive session. The number to call both on air and to WhatsApp is 457-9997. All right. So we're going to take a question here from our live, and Gibson is asking, is it legal to tint the front windshield of a vehicle? Many police officers have their private vehicles tinted all around, including the front windshield. Is it legal? What does the law is? So the thing of it is that within Vinci, is it that the law is already in place regarding tinting, or is it a brand new law that's going to be put in place? Maybe there's some clarification that's needed there.
If I may respond to that question, hence there is the reason why we have a draft in terms of how your vehicle should appear on the roads of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The present legislation is not clear as to the tint on motor vehicle. Section 26 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic law said that the front windscreen must be clear, and that is all it said to it. It must be clear.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It didn't speak to the side glass. It didn't speak to any device that should not be on the windscreen. But the draft legislation speaks and bring clarity as to how your motor vehicle should be once it has been used on the road of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
All right. Added to that, right? And I'm sure working in the head of the traffic department, you would know this as well. There are a lot of police officers that this is the side hustle, tinting people's vehicles, and a lot of the cases they're the ones who are tinting the darker vehicles for persons. Now, in my personal opinion, if my vehicle is so dark to the point that I can't see, that is negligence and ignorance on my part. You mean to tell me I have so much money put aside that I could afford to crash into things, reverse into things, crash into other people? That's stupidness. I think that in every moderation should be the word of the. If the tint on my vehicle is 20%, I can see fine at nights. I can see fine in the day. I don't have any issues. I've been in one single motor vehicle accident in my life, and it was a van. And we all know how it goes on the roads with these vans. But my question is, what is being put in place? Is it possible for you to meet with these officers and deter them from their practices, because that's outside of their job as a police officer? Are there anything in place? Is there anything in place?
No, the officers are not above the law. We are law enforcement officers, and we are to abide by the laws of the land. If this draft legislation is passed, they will have to comply.
And it's not just police officers, it would be anybody who puts on tints. It's not
it's
just
everybody, right? But we
Right.
have to we have to acknowledge
So
the
you're talking about
hypocrisy
who's
in
setting
that
the example?
in that the ones who are supposed to be enforcing this are actually using it as a business.
Yes, but as Lewis said earlier on, there are persons who might be exempted. Mind you, I'm not saying that every police officer would be exempted.
Oh no, I'm not saying
No.
that they have the tint,
But
and
what
I'm
I am
saying they're
saying-
putting on the tint on other vehicles
As a job.
as a job. Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
In the absence of the law, in the absence of legislation to come to curb these acts, people do what they see or what the practice is.
Mm-hmm.
But once the law is passed, the legislation is passed, and it is to be enforced, every police officer have to enforce the law, and they are not above the law. If it's like having additional lights to your motor vehicle, the law say you should not have additional lights to your vehicle. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah, and I never understood that. I'm glad you brought it up.
But if you make an application to the Commissioner of Police, who is the licensing authority, and this legislation will speak to the draft legislation in terms of the tint, speaks to also the licensing authority to get approval or certificate. In the case of the light, I have seen where persons would have make a case for having additional lights on the vehicle. They make application to the Commissioner of Police, and although the law say you should not have it, the Commissioner approves because there's a leeway for that. It gives the licensing authority, who is the Commissioner of Police, that leeway to accommodate such persons with such condition. Same like this draft legislation.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you have the draft in front of you, and you could tell us what's being put forward so far, what's in the works so far. I'm sure. Am I right, Rob? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I have just summarized what they have. So they're gonna have lights. So the visible light transmission to the vehicle. So for the front windscreen, should be maybe 70%, 35% for the side lights, the two front side lights, 35% for the passenger and driver windows, 20% for the rear windows, and 20% for the back windscreen. Right? So 70% of visible light transmission. So there should be a 70% light passing through the window.
Okay, and that's the draft so far. That's not the final. That's the draft.
That's not the final. You would have what we call a light transmission device. So officers would be trained in the use of that. That can be used daytime and nighttime. So they can spot it on the vehicle and they can tell the percentage. Right? It also speaks about the exemptions as we discussed before. It also speaks about the defects to windscreen. So you shouldn't have any crack or any other like they call it again.
Unnecessary stickers.
Unnecessary stickers.
Graphics, etc.
Etc. No tint with bubbly surface. They should be smooth. It also speaks about the amount of inches from the top to the.
Wasn't that in place before?
No.
Okay, because I remember at one point people used to be measuring
Yes,
it.
Because the existing law is saying as a clear windscreen. The licensing authority at the time, who is the commissioner of police, always give a leeway for at least 7 inches of tint to help people with the sunlight as
right.
All right.
Well, you also have what we call the officers will issue persons with tickets if they are caught, not following the rules. Persons with exemptions must have the exemptions with them at all times.
Okay.
From my review of the draft article, there were no provisions in place for like rental vehicles who would be liable if I rent a vehicle and it is not within the prescribed standards. Who would be charged for it? Well, it says that I will be charged as the driver.
As the driver?
owner and operator.
Right. So owner and
The
operator.
The draft
Okay.
speak
Right, the
to
draft speak
operator.
about that.
So if
So once I'm driving it, I'll be held liable. So I mean, but there should be provisions in it where I can appeal.
Mhm.
Right. So it's not really that strict to say that every person who drives it is liable. Right. It is a very good piece of legislation from what I've seen.
And out of curiosity, the role of the customs now, where would they
Well-
fall with regards to this? Because
From my
we don't
knowledge-
manufacture tints
right.
here.
From my knowledge, we would have made some notes in regards to that.
Mm.
So customs should be on board with this because persons may purchase a vehicle from overseas and they don't know the tint that is on the vehicle if it has tint.
Mhm.
So the manufacturers are not okay with the regulations in every country. So the person who's buying it should be okay with the legislation here.
And what about the film itself, the tint film? Is it that if they don't, if they're not within the grade as stated in the, well, when it becomes legislated, a bill, is it that it's going to be automatically seized from
Hopefully,
customs?
customs will be on board.
Mhm.
And I want to see the final draft in terms of who will be responsible for to put on tint if there are designated persons to put it, because right now anybody can put on tint, right? So, but I'm not sure if these persons are trained regarding the percentage that is allowed. Where persons can go and get these tints, where persons can remove them, whether there will be, well, I'm sure that there will be a grace period for persons to remove the tints. I'm sure.
All right, remove tint too. I forget
I'm
about
sure.
that.
I'm sure they will have a grace period for that.
All right.
We have a
We have a
caller.
caller. Let's say this call quickly. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
I heard the sergeant mention certain things about the legislation. Well, so while it may not be final, and there would have to have discussions on it with respect to factory tint vehicles, it would be mindful that the legislators take into account those type of vehicles that are factory tinted, because I do not think the tint or the type of tint or the density of the tint would be less than 20%. And they normally tint the back glass and the two back door glass and the rear glass of a vehicle. They don't tint the front drivers and passenger side, nor the windshield of a vehicle. So legislators ought to take into account the density of the factory tinted vehicles, rather than you're saying that it's a possibility that a vehicle coming in with tinted back glass and so on could be seized by customs. That would create a problem there.
Okay.
Well, just to answer it.
Caller, you staying on the line, or
Hello,
are you staying on the line for the response?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Okay.
Just for your information, call. There are provisions in place where I think it's customs will have provisions for that regarding the manufacture tint. So persons can bring them in, but they have to notify customs regarding the tint condition of the vehicle. There will be a waiver for persons.
But a person who's ordering a vehicle would may not necessarily know that the vehicle is already factory tinted. They just see a vehicle and they may not, because those pictures are taken in sunlight or from overseas. Normally the vehicles pictures are taken in sunlight. They are not able to see whether these vehicles are factory tinted or not. So
that is true. That is true.
the sellers may not specify that they are factory tinted.
You're correct. That's why our department made mention of that regarding so there should be a provision where you, once you bring the vehicle, if you don't know the condition of it, you can have a period where you can apply, and once you make that application, an exemption should be granted for you. But I'm not sure.
I don't see the need for that.
Yeah, but then again,
what you don't want?
You cannot bring a vehicle that is not within specification and drive it without.
No. Vehicles are coming into the country that are not in keeping with the laws of the land.
Well, once.
we have to keep in times with what is happening outside of us, because we don't control what is happening outside of us.
That is true, but we can control what happens inside. So once a vehicle comes inside or
Yeah, but
inside your country-
you may control what is happening inside, and that may cause serious repercussions on other things. So you have to frame your legislation around what is happening outside. Our laws are antiquated when it comes to traffic. And I'm speaking from experience. Our laws are antiquated when it comes to traffic. And for nearly 10 years now, there has been discussions on the revising of the traffic laws. And nothing has become of it as yet. So we, as I said before, we have to frame our laws around what is happening in the international arena. Because we don't make vehicles in St. Vincent. So as I said before, vehicles come factory tinted with no less than 20% factory tinted vehicle coming here. So we have to frame our laws around that rather than to create inconvenience for people.
Thank you, caller. Thank you,
Thank
caller.
you.
Vehicles do not come with their front windshield and the front driver side and passenger side door glasses tinted. And the brake glasses are tinted with no less than 20% density tints.
Thank you,
All
caller.
right, thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller.
Right.
No,
Yeah, guided.
And
as
what's
you probably know, I
interesting-
agree wholeheartedly with this caller. I
Yeah,
do
right.
think that the laws are antiquated, and I'm glad he said that, because I wanted to get back to the question for you, ASP Browne. You made mention of the additional lights. Now, I had heard in conversation before that you're not supposed to have floodlights on your vehicle by law. Is that factual?
All right, give me
we
one
have a
second,
caller.
please. We have another caller, and I'm using my left hand very properly. Go ahead. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I don't have much say a question, but I just want to make a comment as it relates to the caller that just called a while ago. While we don't, while we have to take into consideration some vehicles may be factory tinted, my question to him really would have been, do we just buy a vehicle without checking the specification of the vehicle? Now, if we're going to put regulation in place to control tinting, if someone is purchasing a vehicle, they will have that information online as to whether it is tinted or not before they purchase the vehicle. So we cannot make excuses to import vehicles that are actually tinted. And do America actually focus its legislation on other nations? Yes, I understand we have to focus our legislation sometimes, but we are not obligated to do that.
Yeah, but
that's
America
my take.
manufactures cars.
Yeah, I know, I'm aware of that, but you see, most of the time we want to focus our legislation on other country, but every country is not the same, and some legislation will be different here and there. But yes, while they manufacture cars, we hardly import vehicles from America. Most of the vehicles come from other countries like Japan and those places.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why I'm making this statement. So we cannot say we can just import vehicles. We must check the specification of the vehicle now that we have regulation and ensure that we comply accordingly when we import in vehicles to our country. That's my take.
All right, thank you, caller.
All right. In response to that, a lot of vehicles don't come with I don't know what we call the tint that we put on, that the dark tint that we usually have on our vehicles now. But a lot of vehicles come with this type of tint, and I'm so sorry I can't remember the name.
Titanium tint.
Was it to reflect the
titanium.
to minimize the ray of the sun to the driver? A lot of vehicles come with that, and if you add any layer of tint, it immediately doubles in darkness. So I don't think a lot of the times they really mention this specification when you're ordering a vehicle, when you're buying a vehicle. We may be able to have discourse with the seller, and he might tell us. But I don't think there's a way to know that for certain. The question about the additional lights. Assuming you mean the LED strips, and I'm talking about things outrageous like that.
Before I go to the additional lights, you could order any vehicle and bring it to a country. But when it comes here, to make it roadworthy, it must be in keeping with the laws of the land.
And that's fair.
Straight up. Now, persons were prosecuted for having additional lights on their motor vehicle. And they will tell you, officer, this comes so. Officer, I buy the vehicle so. I am the second owner for this vehicle, and the first owner was driving it with all these lights. Yes. But apparently the owner before, the previous owner, was driving and not really using them. Even though they wasn't using them, the law said they must not be affixed to the vehicle. Or they might be evading the police as such.
Yeah, but does the floodlight fall under that category?
Additional light. The law say the vehicle must be equipped with 2 headlamps, one to the right and one to the left.
Okay.
It must have side lights and off-side lights. That is the lights to indicate, and the park lights.
All right, and while we're on the topic of lights, someone asked the question, there are many private vehicles and buses with flashing headlights and flashing rear lights. Is this legal?
It is illegal. You know, and this is something that we...
All right, so we'll get back to that question of the lights in a moment. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Caller, we have 2 minutes left in this segment. So,
Yeah, I just want to ask ASP Browne a question. He just mentioned the law say, and that is correct, the law says the vehicle must be equipped with 2 headlights to the front. What would he do? Or what should be done with vehicles that are manufactured with 4 lights to the front, 4 headlights to the front?
All righty.
because that was going to be my next question.
Right. So let's allow him to answer maybe after the time check.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you guys have time to extend Cop Chat once again
Please
this
and
week.
thank you.
We have to hop into ECB currency exchange rates and lotto results. So would you be able to stick around a bit and we finish this conversation, because we still have to speak about firearms and sexual assault. But so the officers will stick around with us after our currency exchange rate and lotto result, and we will return with discussions at 9:15 a.m. All right. So the time in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is now the top of the hour, 9 a.m. And we would have our ECCB currency exchange rates brought to us by Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Brick by brick, piece by piece, building with technology.